Hey everybody, and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Ready to Die Fighting. I'm Chris, and today I am finishing up my 4-part series of how bikes can save the world. If you have not been watching, there is a playlist, Essential Bike Skills for Preppers is where I'm putting this. You can go and find it. I'm not going to put it up there. I'm not going to put a link down there. You're going to have to hit that notification bell, and that way you'll know when I put these videos out, and you won't miss them anymore. Be self-sufficient. Go look for them yourself. All right. Like and subscribe. Let's get into this. All right, so I've already covered the physical health benefits, the mental and social health benefits, how they are more cost efficient. Let's get into the big one, environmentally. The benefits of riding a bike and how this is really, I think, where it really comes together, and like this is going to be the thing that saves us if we do it. So, climate change, it's a thing. Bikes, less pollution, less air pollution. That's the big one. There's no emissions. There's, aside from, maybe you breathing. You breathing hard if you're going up the hill or whatever. But that's it. That's it. There's less noise pollution, which is also nice. Like, maybe it's not environmentally making that big of a difference, but just like as far as like our environment that we enjoy, more pleasant place to be around. If you ever lived close to a busy street, trying to sleep at night and cars were zipping by, not that great. Bikes, though, quiets things down. With bikes, you don't need as many roads. You don't need as wide of roads. You don't need as many parking lots and parking structures and parking spaces. Less concrete, more room for more grass, more trees, which is going to help clean the air, provide homes for various animals, potentially maybe even some sort of edible garden or whatever. All those things are better for environment. Something else that's really cool I've noticed over the years is that I mentioned in the last video about the cost of like maintaining the bike is you do have to put oil on a chain and various other places. A lot of the cleaning solutions and oils, lubricants for bikes are biodegradable, which is fantastic because inevitably some of that stuff, especially like on the chain, it's going to drip down on the ground at some point, whether while you're putting it on or while you're riding it. Some of it might spray off or drip off. And if it's biodegradable, made from all natural stuff, that's obviously better. You're not pouring poison out onto the ground. That's not the case with cars. Gasoline and motor oil and antifreeze, that stuff's not biodegradable. Antifreeze is poisonous to animals. It's illegal to dump that stuff. You can't even hardly dispose of it. Not the case with bike oil. So that's a huge perk, in my opinion. What else do we have here? They last longer than cars. So this past Christmas, I volunteered with an organization called Free Bikes for Kids. And people donated bikes, thousands of bikes. Some of them were really old, like older than me. Some of them looked like they were from the 60s or 70s, maybe even older. I don't even know. And we cleaned them up, we fixed them up, and then we donate them to children. That's actually where I got this bike from. The year before, I worked on the donating side. I worked with a group who was helping donate them stuff, and they let me pick out one bike to keep for myself. So that's where I got this one. But this year, I worked on fixing the bikes up, and so many of them are old. And once you clean the rust off of them, cleaned them up, minimum maintenance, and they worked like new, like they were fine. I typically would replace the lines. A lot of times the brake lines had to be replaced, not always, but sometimes. The brake pads usually need to be replaced if they were old enough, not always. Every now and then the tires, not always, because a lot of people don't ride them enough to actually wear down the tires. A couple of them were just so old that they were like dry rotted, but for the most part the tires were still good. We didn't replace any chains. Some of them probably could have needed it, but we didn't have very many chains, so I didn't replace any chains. I just lubricated them, cleaned them as best I could, made adjustments. Sometimes the gears need to be adjusted, brakes need to be adjusted. things like that. Make sure everything was lubricated. And then we rode them, and they were fantastic. They were like new bikes. There was nothing wrong. I don't know that you could take a car from the 60s and work on it for an hour or two, replace the brake pads, and then just drive it and it's fine. I don't think that's a thing that happens. I don't know for sure. I'm not a car mechanic. Never tried. But I feel like it's more involved than that. With the bikes, that just wasn't the case. As long as the frame isn't cracked, a lot of the stuff that needs to be replaced on it is minor. It's inexpensive. They're small parts. Like I said, the oils and stuff are biodegradable. It's small investment, and they can go and go and go and go and go. They're very simple. So not a whole lot goes wrong. They're also safer for animals. Because, you're probably not going to run over a squirrel with your bike. Probably not. I hope not. That seems traumatic. Probably not going to hit a deer. You're not going to be leaking antifreeze for some animal to, a dog to lick it up and die or anything. It's going to be safer for the animals, which is, I consider that part of the environment, right? Now, to look at the numbers, like our carbon footprint. And this is where it got really interesting. I got this information from bikeradar.com, and they did their studies based off out of the UK. They did research themselves, but they also collected a bunch of research from other organizations to formulate this info. It was very interesting. So here's some of the highlights. The carbon footprint from riding a bike is 21 grams per kilometer. That works out to being less than riding a bus, and what I thought was really interesting, less than walking. And I'm like, how is that even possible? How can it be less of a carbon footprint than walking? And that's because riding a bike is extremely efficient. You burn less calories riding a bike than you do walking the same distance. And bikes and walking, you do require fuel, but that fuel comes in the form of food. And unless you are growing your own food and like hunting and all that, chances are the food from farm to plate, the carbon footprint there, a lot of transportation. I think a lot of it comes from transport, but especially if you're eating meat and dairy, clearing out forests to make fields for the animals to graze and eat, getting food for this different livestock, transporting the livestock, transporting the food, processing, all that stuff. It's a really big impact. So, because you require more calories to walk a kilometer than you do to ride your bike a kilometer, your carbon footprint for walking is actually greater than riding a bike. If you switch over to an e-bike, it's even lower, because even though you do have a battery, and that does add to the manufacturing carbon footprint, and you're using electricity to charge that battery, your caloric requirement is lower, and so it ends up being just a little bit less. So 21 grams per kilometer for a traditional bike. I didn't write the number down for electric, but I think it was about 18. So just a little bit less, but less nonetheless. Sounds weird to say, less nonetheless. Whatever. My comparison by car is 171 grams per kilometer. So we're looking at 21 versus 171. That's 8 times, roughly. 7.5 times. No, yeah, 8.5. I don't know, something like that. Close to 8 times as much bigger carbon footprint. And that is not counting manufacturing. So if we switch over to manufacturing, a bike, so like the production of the car, producing the actual car or the bike. Producing a bike, a steel frame bike. So bikes typically can be either steel, aluminum, carbon fiber, probably some hybrids, alloys or whatever, but that's kind of like the most common ones that you see. Steel is 96 kilograms of CO2. So that's how much CO2 is produced by producing a single bike, 92 kilograms. made out of steel. Aluminum was more. I didn't write down the number. I want to say it was 120, perhaps, around there. That was for fresh new aluminum. Aluminum is readily recyclable. So if you use recycled materials, you get 5% of that. I believe with steel you can recycle as well. And that one was also, I think it was 5% on recycled materials. So significantly less. However, comparing that to a car, it is 6.6 tons of CO2 produced in manufacturing a single car. 6.6 tons versus 96 kilograms. If it's an aluminum bike, let's go even round up high. Let's say it's 200 kilograms versus 6.6 tons. A bike, an e-bike is more than a steel or aluminum bike, but not. It's still in the kilogram range, not the ton range. Yeah, that's just like 6.6 tons of CO2. All right, so now if they projected, if cycling in the UK reached, like the popularity reached the levels that it was at in the 1940s, which still isn't as much as how much people cycle in, I think it's Amsterdam, that would have a reduction in our CO2 levels, or output or emissions or whatever, of 7.7 million tons per year, which is the equivalent, 7.7 million tons of CO2. That is 13 million flights from London to New York every year. The UK is not a big place. That's just for the UK. If we can reduce by that much, and that's not saying get rid of all cars and never drive, never fly, never use any type of motorized transportation. That's just getting us back to like 1940s levels. There were still cars there. People still drove, just not as much as they do now. I mean, if we all, can you imagine if that expanded to other countries, countries as big as the United States or as Canada or Australia? If just those countries, if the UK, Canada, United States, and Australia, just those four did this, I mean, I can't even imagine. That would change everything. That would save the world. That would save the world. The benefit to our atmosphere, to our quality of life here, would just be astronomical. If we were all cycling that much, the increase in our physical health, the saved costs, the improved air quality, improved mental health, improved sense of community, what would that look like? That's just amazing to me. And that's why I think cycling can save the world. It's just that simple. We'd clean up our air. We would get healthier. We'd be more involved in our community. We'd be shopping locally. We'd be getting outside. We'd all have beautiful tans. And we'd all be saving money. What's the downside? The downside is that there's a stigma against people not having cars, at least here in Detroit, Motor City. Everybody's supposed to drive a car. It's almost a crime not to drive a car here. People are lazy. There's that. There has to be a culture shift in order to make this happen. We need to get more bike lanes. We get more people healthy enough and confident enough riding bikes. We need to get quality bikes out there, not the Walmart and big box bikes that break and fall apart and are dangerous and poorly put together. Get good quality bikes to people. Give them bike lanes. You also need lights. Realistically, bikes probably should come with lights. I don't know why they don't. They come with reflectors, but realistically, if you're going to be riding in the dark, you need lights. So we just need to make it safe. We need to educate people, let them be aware of the laws. Drivers need to know the laws, really, more so than bike riders. Need to know that cycles, wheels go in the street. People on bikes belong in the street, not on the sidewalk. Make room. Make room for us. We can do this, and we can save our planet. We can save our society. And it doesn't take a lot. It's something that we can all do as individuals. I personally, it's Michigan, it's winter. I do know people who ride bikes all year round. There's some guys who I work with who ride in the snow, in the dark, in the ice. I'm not at that level. I'll do that once in a while for fun. I'm not commuting to work that way. But my job is 13 miles away. We, during the summer, regularly ride 13 miles for fun. There's no reason why I can't do that. I might not do it every day, but I'm going to try to commit to doing it once a week and see how that goes. Once it gets warm, I'm going to wait till like maybe April or May, somewhere around there. Once a week. I'm going to see if I can commute to work. And any place that I go that's less than 5 miles, I'm going to cycle there. If as time permits. I'm not gonna try to make a goal that I know that I'm gonna mess up on, and certainly nothing's gonna happen. No one's gonna, tell on me if I drive less than 5 miles. But I'm going to try to do that, make that lifestyle change, because it just makes sense to do it. Once you look at the numbers and look at the benefits, I can't think of a reason not to, aside from just laziness. I'm too lazy to do it. That's it, really. And that's not a good enough excuse. Too lazy to save the world? Come on. Too lazy to improve my health? Too lazy to save money? It just doesn't make sense. The common sense answer is right there. Check out the books. What did I call it? Bikenomics by Ellie Blue, and How Cycling Can Save the World by Peter Walker. Also check out bikeradar.com if you want to get some of those stats for yourself. I'll try to remember to post the link down there. I'm not going to. Maybe I won't. But bikeradar.com. You should be able to find it. Like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed this series. Thanks for watching. Let me know down there if you too are going to try to incorporate more cycling into your lifestyle. All right. And if you're not convinced, why not? Give me a con. Tell me why you're not convinced. Can't just because you're lazy. Gotta have a better reason than that. All right. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next video.